can we enhance our senses through sensors? And how sensors and connections can reshape some way humanity and the way we perceive?
We're living in a world that's increasingly full of sensors of all sorts, and these sensors are networked and integrated into the electronic environment, so we can access that information and pull it into our perception. And one thing the group looks at a lot is how humans will graft onto that ecosystem, how we really will take all this information from all these sensors and bring it into our perception. We also work the other way, where we look at building smart buildings as also extensions of the human, and that it's not like Alexa and Google and Siri where we talk to them. A lot of the things we talk to them about are things that we don't want to talk to them about anyway. They should know, right? They should know us better than we know ourselves. So I walk into a room, it should know whether it should heat or cool the room to make me comfortable. It should know how to set the lighting depending on what's going on in the room or how I'm reacting to it. This is this building, animated view of this building. And you can see the offices that are too cold because of the blue circles. If they're red, it's too hot. You see the color of the flames, the temperature of every office. As you move through the atrium, you can see the temperature of the different areas. The humidity is the color of the fog. That was pretty dry that day because it's blue. But now you can hear things because we have microphones all over. And as you move in the virtual world near a place in the real world, it's like you're there in a weird dream. So you can see people moving through RFID as they move around. We can see where they are with RFID if they elect to wear a badge. And now you can hear people having a discussion. You cannot understand a word they say because we distort the audio. But you can tell if they're happy, they're laughing, there's people together.
As normal, you can hear.
Yeah, you can hear. And
Understand.
it's a weird sense of presence, as if you're in a strange dream where you're not quite there, but you're almost there. So it's a sense of presence. It's playing with presence in a totally different way. And when we develop that, we realize this is something that could be very profound, because the whole idea of where you are at a given point in time is challenged by being able to plug into all of these sensors.
So you perceive to be somewhere where you are not.
Yes. The whole idea of the here and even the now are challenged through plugging into the sensors and this data in a very visceral way, where it's not just looking at it for information, not just looking at it to get some overlay. It's trying to have a totally new experience through this, an experience that feels more or less natural for human perception, which I think is the way it's going to go. And a lot of the work that happens with us now is not just portraying all this information in people's face. It's trying to look at what you're focusing on, what are you paying attention to, and then trying to bring the information relating to that up in the best possible way. So another project we're doing is in a large wetland restoration site. So it's a huge marsh. It used to be a cranberry farm. It's now turned into a wildlife sanctuary. We put sensors all over the place to measure lots of parameters, including microphones to pick up the sounds of the wildlife, lots of things. And we can run a virtual world where you can visit it virtually and see the sensors update. The sensors themselves even make music. So you can hear through the music the temperature, the humidity, the conditions that are there. And we have a framework with different composers can do different pieces. It's a different way of relating to it. So that's live data. And that's the audio from the site. So you can hear. In Italy, you can run this. You can hear the sounds. So it's spring afternoon. So this is just people, looking on a website and okay, that's fun, but it's not that novel. So let's push it a little bit. The real bog, if you want to move around, it takes forever. This is the virtual one, and it. Let me change the music. It. Has all the sensor data there, and we render it with an animation. Let me move up a little bit and look down. So as the sensors update, you can see that bubble. You can see the temperature, you can see the humidity, light levels, everything, and there are other sensors there. So they're updating now. Every time you get one of those, it's a real-time update now. So depending on the music, you also have an idea of the conditions. So you have an ethereal tie to this landscape through a musical composition. As you move around, it'll change. So we can fly through. And we have animals here. The animals, at this point, are tied to sensor data. So if it's been hot or humid, they'll look different than if it's been dry. So you see the history of the sensor data through the way they look. The landscape does reflect what the sensors give us. So it knows about the weather. It rains, just like it rains in the real world at the same time. Fog. We have different modes where you can enhance the sensor data in different ways. So you don't have to look at it just as if it's regular reality. You can change it as you like. But it's not just a virtual world, it's driven by the real world. It's an avatar landscape. You know, the animals, again, are fed by the sensor data.
So
and then
we are packaging the world.
Yes. This is a different musical composition because you can map what you want. This one is more avant-garde, so we package the world in a different way. So here is the just recognizing for images. This is a colleague in Paris that's doing that. He spends half the year with us. He has a team in Paris that are deep learning experts. So it's doing better and better as it sees a better view of the animal. It knows it's a swan. This is a virtual reality interface. If you're physically there with an augmented reality, he prototyped a wristband where you can hold it out and try to look through the cameras that are there. A simple interaction just with a colored band. So it's a simple way to integrate with the sensors in a different way. But what if you're really there and you want to amplify your senses? So yeah, we would look remotely. You know, I showed you lots of ways you can do that. If you're physically there, try to work in a very natural way. Get microphones and sensors all over, and by focusing and seeing that you're looking and you're still, you start to bring in the sound of the microphones in that direction. So the first version, he had lots of sensors. He had eye tracker, he had EEGs, and he looked at heart rate and things like that. And you know, attention is hard to judge that way, and it wasn't giving us enough value to keep all the bulk, right? We don't want to have that much on our body. So in the end, it was very simple. We just had a full inertial measuring unit tracking the head because we have to know where you're looking. And we had GPS in the phone. And that turned out to be enough. We had a touch sensor also on the side. And it turns out that when you're focusing, you tend to be very still. And for us, that was a valuable cue because then we could bring up the sounds in the direction you're looking. So that was effective. And it's not hard to wear. You just put it on like a headband and you're fine. There's no crazy sensors that are in front of your face. And most of our projects in the space are about that. Not about a fake reality, but about the real world enhanced through the way we can present the information to people. Give them sensory superpowers. It works so well that I sometimes don't know if it's coming from the system or from my ears. It is as if you have your ears in the swamp where you can't go. So when you're there, you know, you'll hear a bird, and here's a bird right there. The bird is actually way over there.
You will be more human or not?
Well, I don't know what human means here, but we don't want to take away from what you already have. We want to add, right? So if you take away from the experience of being in this beautiful place, I don't think it's ideal. I want to be able to enhance it. So let's say you're a naturalist, or maybe even a birder, or somebody who doesn't like necessarily technology, or doesn't want to experience the world with their own capability. We keep that there, but we let them enhance it. So if you're looking at a tree or looking across the marsh, we have microphones there, and you can get the sound from those microphones feeding into your perception as if it's an extension of your hearing. We don't cover the ears; we add it through the bone conduction. So here you can walk through in a winter day, but have the sounds come as if they're in the spring. So you're experiencing a different reality in the same place, still tied as you move your head, move your body. It's as if you're really there in this other time. So we're superimposing that over the reality that you normally would perceive, but doing it in a way that isn't intrusive.
And how it changed the perception of reality, if reality exists?
End of the day, what is reality, right? It's signals that are basically going into your brain, and it gets distorted in different ways. I think, as a scientist, there are certain things that are true. I mean, nature basically has rules and laws, and the scientific method has been quite successful in that we test and verify everything with experiments that can be duplicated, and that gives you a ground on reality. People always love stories, though. We're evolved to appreciate stories. So when you see already what's happened to the world when it's mediated by something at arm's length, what happens when everybody sees and here's a different reality. This is, I think, an intriguing future we're moving into, one of which we have to solve the problems we have now with, virtual reality or our reality mediated by information from a phone, before we get to the point where we see and hear something different. So I think
we will see something different without a screen.
Yes.
Okay.
We're going to mediate the information that we perceive. Ideally, if it's done right.
We can build a reality for each person.
In principle, yeah, sure. Why not? We already do it online anyway. I like the New York Times, so I think I'm objective. Other people like other things. They live in a different sphere of reality in many ways than I do.
What would be society?
Ultimately, we'll still be collective, we'll still be social, but we could perhaps do that at a level that's even more than now. I think what also is happening is our brain is moving outside of our own heads in some sense, right? So, what knowledge do I have? At one point it was, just stuff I could remember, maybe stuff I could hear passed down with oral tradition by some song. And then we could start to write, and then we had the printing press, and then we had libraries, so all this knowledge was being offloaded into physical media, books and things like that. Now, though, that information is available immediately online in various kinds of formats. It can be searched contextually, just like my own memory can be, right? So I can associatively search it, it responds to context. So my memory in many ways now is outsourced already, I think, for a lot of us. Students will come ask for something, I used to point to a book, I still do sometimes. And occasionally I'll just search with them. So we'll look and find it, right? If I'm writing a paper or an article, I'll not go to the library, I'll not search my own memory completely. It always starts with some memory, of course. I'll just physically try to search. In the future, when we have wearable computing and beyond, this interface is going to be seeing and hearing with us. So it's going to start reacting more and more to context. We're already getting better at understanding the context of the user. That's a real critical thing, and a lot of the work now in human-computer interfaces is around that. The user interface into this isn't going to be necessarily typing and talking exactly. It's going to be a collaboration between these artificial agents and you, where you're going to basically be nudging and tweaking them, and they're going to be learning from you and getting better and better and better.